Questions about how to work with directors comes up all the time, in different ways, in different forms. But that specific question, how to work with a difficult director who doesn't seem to jive with your understanding of the script, let's talk about that. It does remind me, though, that I need to post the 5 steps of taking notes from a director. I don't think we've talked about that in a while. That's in chapter 5 of the campus videos. Of course, taking notes from a director is listen, repeat, translate, practice, and surrender. We'll talk about that another time. The director's job is to be the audience's representative on set. The director's job is to make sure that the audience is getting what they need. Is it too much right now? Do they need to be thrown for a red herring? Are they being brought down the garden path? Or do they need this information? Or what is the emotional response that they're trying to get at this point in the script? And so they're looking very much at the whole from an audience's perspective. Now, as an actor, you need to be breaking down your scripts from the whole. And when you're analyzing the scene, preparing for the scene, you do need to think about the audience a lot. Where are the audience superior in information or inferior in information to the characters right now? And what does the audience know? What do they not know? What do we need to reveal? What do we need to hide? Um, these things will all come into play in your analysis and approach to the scene. But of course, once you're on set and you're the actor, all of that needs to be dropped, because now it's about fulfilling the moment. So the director's job is really to direct you into staying in the parameters of what we need for this scene. So directors talk in director talk, and director talk is audience talk, and audience talk is result. And so a director's gonna talk in things like, inevitably, colors and levels and layers and emotional generalities, like, I think the scene is darker, or I think we need to take down the humor, or could you show more, or could you show less, or, and they sit back, they look at the result, and they talk about the result. That's the director's job. So any actor who, sometimes you hear of actors, oh, that director does not know how to talk to actors. And that's not the director's job. It's the actor's job to translate what the director wants. The director doesn't have to talk to the gaffer. Sometimes they do, sometimes they're educated that way, but the director doesn't need to talk to the gaffer or to the builders of the set in builder talk. They just go, look, I need this wall to be much higher, and then they're the ones that are talking about the which gyprock they need to bring in, or whatever. Or like, the director goes, I need a good stream of daylight coming through here. He doesn't necessarily choose which lamp to use. So our each and every department's job is to hear what the director needs, translate it back into whatever the process of their work is, and then deliver that. So sometimes when an actor says to me, I'm working with this director and she or he are very difficult, and we don't agree, and it ends up that you do agree, you're just speaking different languages. And the humility of the actor should be, it's the actor's job to translate the director's language, not the director's job to talk in the actor's language. And I think a lot of actors get that wrong. How do you take direction even when you feel the direction is leading you down a path that you don't want to go down, or somehow rendering a worse performance? How do you give the director what she wants, even if it's in conflict with how you interpret the role? Or how you like to work? There's a lot going on, so let's unpack that question. How you like to work, your process as an actor, as long as we're getting to the honest, psychological, real, connective truth in which we're fulfilling the story that's being asked of us, and we're not peppering the work with our own insecurity, as long as we're delivering when we need to deliver, your process is your process. And directors, again, like they're working with the electronics people, the electrics people, or they're working with the costume department. They don't tell you how to sew, they just need that hat. So the directors, mostly, they don't ask a question or get involved in your acting process. If they do, if somehow they step over the line and are in your purview now of how you do what you do. There's no need to get arrogant or angry, or in the end, you're the one acting. So, you know, if they're in your artistry, you know, just listen to what you need and then kind of go do what you need to do. When I was in theater school in New York City, the question of how do you work with a director you don't agree with came up. And the answer that we were taught was nod and then go do whatever you want because you're the one on stage, which is lovely. But let's have a little more humility than that. It is possible that your understanding of the scene, your approach to the scene, your psychological analysis of the scene is off, is not what the director wants, is not how the director sees the script. And in the end, you're there to serve the director, and they're the ones who are manning the ship for the script. So you need to make sure that you and the director are jiving on what does this scene mean? What does my character mean? Why does my character exist? What's happening to my character, and what do we need to sell in this scene to the audience? You need to be in conjunction with them. And so kind of like on a macro level, you have to make sure that you've done your homework and you and the director jive. That's why when you're doing your analytical homework, you need to be as objective as possible to make sure that you understand the script that is written, that script, not the story you want to tell, the story that's being told. And if the director can do her work objectively, analytically, and really remove her ego and say, what does this story need from me? And you're doing that, you will find that the majority of the times on set, you guys come together and you go, oh, we see it the same way. On a more minute level, the director sees something through a lens. And then you go, okay, that's interesting, because in this scene, I didn't see that. Now you need to work out who's right. And there is a right, and this makes some actors really angry, but there's one right way to do the scene, and then there's an infinite number of wrong ways to do a scene. And so you and the director have to kind of work it out. And if it's sort of like about this scene, about what my character's going through, you hash it out with them. And if you've done you take out your ego, you take out your insecurity, you take out your desire to be right, you're simply attempting to do the script correctly, not you needing to be right. And then if you can argue with your analysis and your disciplined hard work and with your intelligence and your sophistication, because you've done all of your homework, then you and the director can work it out. And you will find when you're egoless and prepared, that oftentimes the director goes, oh, that's interesting. Because though the director is the helms person of the whole entity, they haven't put nearly as much time and thought into the minutia as you have for your character. So if you're able to justify it along the lines of how he or she sees the script anyway, then they go, oh, that's interesting. And then you work that out. Closer and closer to the tiny moment of how to play it in the moment, you get more and more authority, because the director's getting what they need for the whole script. But what you're delivering in this section or this moment, you know better because you've done your work. Is the director says, I want you to do this. And that's in conflict or opposition to what you know is correct, because you've removed your ego and done all your work, and you guys have worked out the essence. That's when you're able to go, and then just do it your way. And after 2-3 takes, if they really want to see it their way, then you can say, sure, and then deliver it their way. And then trust that if you were correct in the editing room, they'll choose yours. I was on a big TV show, like an ABC television series, a year and a half ago. And I understood that the scene had a comic element, very subtle, but that my character was comedic underneath. And it served the two women in the scene, because it went from me having all the power to me handing over the power to them and being kind of obsequious. And I thought that was kind of funny. And so I actually, the director asked me if I had any questions, and I told him, you know, what I was going to do, really. And he was like, no, absolutely, no, it's not funny. This is not a funny show, and it's not funny. And I'm like, but there is an underlaying comedic sensibility sometimes in the script. And this scene in particular is between two extremely heavy scenes. And so for me to have a little bit of a ridiculous comedic flip and give them the power really works. So, you know, I went through all my checklists and stuff and then went, yeah. And then so then I did it my way on the very first take. And Video Village broke up laughing. And the director came out and told me, right, I was correct. And then the writer gave me one of these behind the director's back. so, so to summarize, do your homework, know of what you speak, and be an expert in what you do. Be amenable and flexible, and remember that you are there humbly to serve. And at the very, 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 very small moment when you sort of know deep in your gut that you're right, then at least ask to show it so that you can then change their minds.